Hello and welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint Show. I am your host, Jay Jones. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint was created specifically to educate and inspire Black entrepreneurs to launch, build, and grow successful businesses. Join us as we help build an economic power base in the Black community by promoting business ownership. If you are currently an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur, we invite you to join us every week here at Black Entrepreneur Blueprint.
Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, episode number 228. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and today we have a dynamic show in store for you. Today we're going to be talking with the founder of WellDressedAcademy.com, Mr. Ty Cutner. And Ty has an amazing story where he went from a bus driver to being a successful image consultant. Now, before we get to today's episodes, I just want to share a few things with the BEB family. Number one, my new book is out, A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses. So if you're interested in building a successful, sustainable e-commerce business, please go to anewblackwallstreet.com. Pick yourself up a copy. It's $14.95 plus shipping and handling. If you need additional assistance building your e-commerce business, I've created a compatible online course titled Educated E-Commerce. You can enroll in that course at educatedecommerce.com. Now, for all you Black product producers, I've created a platform that can connect you with Black consumers worldwide. So if you go to besmartbyblack.com, you can upload your products for free and connect with Black consumers worldwide. Now, all you freelancers, I didn't forget about you. So if you're a Black freelancer and you're looking for more work, please go to hireblackfreelancers.com, where you can connect with Black consumers and Black businesses that are looking for Black freelancers. So that's hireblackfreelancers.com. Now, for all of you new listeners to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, I want to welcome you, and I always forget to do this. So if this is your first time listening, I hope you enjoy. And at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to give you all my social media information. So please connect with me via social media so that way you can stay connected to the show. And welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Now we're going to move forward with our interview with Mr. Ty Cutner. We are on the line with Ty Cutner of Well Dressed Academy. Brother Ty, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Jay. How about yourself?
I'm great, man. I'm great. First and foremost, I want to thank you, brother, for spending time with the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family. When we talked earlier off the air, man, you have a tremendous story, and I'm sure the BEB family would definitely enjoy it. So for my listeners who aren't familiar with you, please give me a little bit of your background before we jump into your entrepreneurial journey, who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into your entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome. Well, first, I appreciate you having me. So thank you. Well, I started my entrepreneur, I guess where I'm from is, I'm Ty Cutner. Full name is Tyron. I always have people call me Ty because they confuse it with Tyrone. So that's, I born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I, grew up in the 90s. That's where I, started becoming my own man, as you would say, learning my own stuff. And, I went to school here in New York as well, and high school, college, everything. And I started out in retail. Luxury retail is where I started my first jobs. So I worked at stores like Louis Vuitton, Gio Sander, Prada, things like that. And my first taste of entrepreneurship was back in 2004, I'll say. Mm-hmm. I started selling luxury shoes on eBay, and I would get the shoes for $50 at a sale that only employees can go to. But these shoes are retail for $400, $500, and I was selling for $350 on eBay. And that was the first time I was like, wow, I made more money in 1 week selling 2 shoes than I did working 40 hours a week. And then that's when light bulb went off in my head, and I've been trying to be a successful entrepreneur ever since.
That's a great arbitrage right there. $50 and then reselling for $350. Man, I bet you were buying as many pairs as you could, huh?
Man, at one time I had people flying in from Chicago because each employee can only get 20 items.
Oh,
so I needed more than 20. So I had people flying in from other stores. I would pay the plane ticket. I had a friend who would split because she would buy the stuff for herself. She was one of those fashionistas. So she would buy 10 pair of shoes for herself. And we went in together. And, at one point I had a spare bedroom, and it was full with shoes, 40, 50 pair of shoes.
That was a nice hustle, man. You got any connects that are still there?
I can make some phone calls if you need something.
All right, we'll talk off air, man. but that's pretty ingenious, man. That's a great way to start. And that's why I want the light bulb to go off in the BEB family members' heads, because sometimes we have to think a little bit outside of the box. And what that was just pure and simple arbitrage. Buy low, sell high. So that was a great concept, and obviously you made some money with that. When we talked before, which was really amazing, you started as a bus driver, and then you created this new business, Well Dressed Academy. Before we really get into Well Dressed Academy, just tell me a little bit about your transition from driving a bus to starting Well Dressed Academy, and how did that happen? And was it something that pushed you over the edge and said, you know what, I know there's more to life than this? So just share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I was in retail. I started doing the eBay stuff, and I was working from home. That started to dry up. I tried to get back into retail, but it was around a recession time, so it was hard getting back in. And my girlfriend, her and I have been together for a long time. She wanted to start moving things forward, wanted to have a kid and all this stuff. And so I was like, all right, but now I got to get a job, a regular job. I was hustling, doing, little entrepreneurial things here and there. And so at the time, a friend of mine was like, yeah, you can get your a CDL license. You go to this place, they'll train you for free, and you get the license and, study job. You could be a driver. I'm like, all right, cool. So I did that. I got the CDL license. I started working for Greyhound. I had one job prior to that. It was Poland Spring, carrying around those 5-gallon water bottles.
Yeah.
I hated that. I got stronger. My body started looking good. My shoulders was getting strong, but I hated it, right? I started working at Greyhound. I hated that because with Greyhound, you get called, and when you get the call that you have to come in, you got to be in 3 hours. You don't know where you're going to go. You don't know where you're going to be. I could end up going to Atlantic City, which is a 2.5-hour drive, and coming back home that night, or I could end up in Montreal and not coming home for 3 or 4 nights.
Wow.
So I hated that, because at the time my girlfriend is pregnant. So I had to be away from home. So eventually I ended up getting another job at a paratransit, which is like, the drivers who pick up people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. So, with that job, I was home every night. But I hated all those jobs because there was no social aspect to it. People would get off the bus. You would never see them again, Mm-hmm. So I hated it. And personally, my life, I was getting older, and I didn't like where my life was going. I wasn't doing anything entrepreneurial. I was working a job I didn't like. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't really exercising my mental capacity. It was just mind-numbing, And then I found out that my girlfriend was cheating on me. So, yeah, so when this all happened, I was in the process of every day when I would be on my bus, I would be thinking about what I want to do, how am I going to improve myself? But then I would get home, and I would sit back on the couch, and I would get back on the Xbox, and I would get back into a comfort place. And so when that event happened, it was like, boom, everything exploded. Like this is what it lead up to when you keep allowing yourself not to, when you keep giving up on yourself, right? When you get too comfortable, this is the stuff that happened. And so anybody who's been through a situation like that, the first thing you do is you try to, you put your attention on the other person.
Right.
I'll be better. I'll do this. I'll do that. And then after a while, I realized it's not about her. It's not about what she did. It's about me, and it's only about me. And I need to improve myself. Mm-hmm. I need to work on myself. I need to be better for myself. So that's what I started doing. I was like, all right, what am I going to improve first? And what I did was I was like, I need to improve the image that I see, because I didn't like how I looked in the mirror. I said, when people meet me, they don't see an entrepreneur. When people meet me, they see a man who's not who looks young but is older. I'm 30s.
Right.
Right. Approaching 30. So I was like, I need to make a change in a big way. And I just I was watching The Godfather one day and I had this in my mind. I was like, man, Michael Corleone wouldn't be handling his issues like this. He's controlling his family.
That's right.
And I was looking at the guy like he's dressing sharp. He's dressing like he's ready for business at all times.
Exactly.
Well, that's how men used to dress. That's how a man should dress. And I was like, I'm going to start dressing like that. I'm going to start wearing my professional clothes every day as my everyday clothes. And when I started doing that, I thought it was just me at it. I wasn't talking to my friends about it. It was just a conversation with myself that I had. And I started the first day, I wore my professional clothes, and people started to react to me differently. They started looking at me differently. When I looked in the mirror, I seen a different person. I became more motivated to change everything else in my life. It was uncomfortable to sit on the couch, uncomfortable to play, video games all day. It was uncomfortable to be lazy. It was uncomfortable to be a bus driver. So I just stopped going to the job. I didn't even quit. I just stopped going.
Job abandonment.
Job abandonment. Kids don't do this at home. Job abandonment completely,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is about that, it took them 2 weeks before they called me.
That's how much they loved you.
Noticed I was gone.
Right.
Exactly.
There you
2 weeks
go.
So that's how important I was at that place. I was just another number. So, and for me, I was like, I don't care. I'm not going back to that industry. I allowed the CDL license to expire. It didn't matter. And they're like, wow, you on that? That CDL license is important. It's valuable. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Exactly.
That's not who I am. You know what I mean? And so I started to dress better. And what ended up happening was, by me having this different feeling of myself, I felt like I wanted people to see me. People needed to see who I am now. And I started to network more. And that's how I ended up getting a new job back in retail. So I went back into retail. So I went for Hermes, and I was wearing a suit every day. So that was right up my alley, right? Uniform, a suit. So I was wearing a suit every day, and I finally was getting that bus driver smell off of me. You know what I mean? And I started to see like, wow, things are different now. I'm feeling different. I'm being treated different. I was like, I want more. There's less limits for me. Ended up becoming a COO. I had a friend who had a nonprofit. He was a CEO. We've been friends for a long time. He started to see my transformation. He was one of the first people to actually ask me why I made the change. Like, why are you always dressed up now? We be going to barbecues and Six Flags Great Adventure. You wearing shoes? What's up with that?
You wearing shoes to Great Adventure, man?
Wearing shoes to Great Adventures. Like, what's up with that? You know what I mean? And I was like, listen. I was like, this is what it is. And I started to understand how we see ourselves, how we present ourselves. Our appearance matters not just to the outside world, but it matters to us.
Right.
How we see ourselves in the mirror. If we don't look the part, if we come out the house or we put on just sweats or try to work in our pajamas, it affects us mentally, Definitely. So I told him, I was like, and it's funny too, because at the time he had just cut his dreads. He had dreads for, years, and he just cut them for, whatever reasons he had. It didn't have anything to do with me, but he cut them. And I asked him, have you noticed any change in how people respond to you because you don't have dreads anymore? He says, yes, they're much more approachable. I said, because in a lot of people's minds, dreads represent something. It may represent Jamaican, it may represent Bob Marley,
right.
It may represent Rastafarian or whatever, because that's all they have in their head when they see dreads. And you're none of those things, right? But that's what they see. So people instantly form an opinion based on your appearance. If they can't identify what your appearance is, or if they identify it as something slightly negative, then they're going to be a little bit more hesitant. So now you have a much more universal appeal, especially since you're in these places and, he's having meetings in the Empire State Building because he's running this nonprofit. And then he understood it. And then he was like, you know what? From all of our talks, we have many talks. He's like, I want to bring you in an organization, as an official role. And so he ended up creating the COO position for me. It didn't exist before. He created it and, maybe the COO. Now I'm the COO. We're working side by side together, and he started seeing how women respond to me. He's like, "Oh man, yo, these women." He had like a little get together, and he invited some women that I didn't know personally, but they were like whispering, like, "Who's that? Who's that?" And he was like, "Ty, they want to know who you are. Ty, what's going on?" He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna be in your class tomorrow." So then after that, he started, "How do you do this? How do you make your clothes look like you're not going to work every day? How do you look cool in dress clothes? Because you look cool. How do you do that? Because when I wear dress clothes, I look like I'm going to church." And I told him, I was like, "Here's what it is. Here are the final little details. Here's what that is." And you get comfortable now. I was like, "Yeah, you get comfortable after doing it for a few days in a row. It becomes normal."
Yeah.
There were times when men didn't dress like this all the time.
Every day. Back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you go to a boxing match, dudes had suits on and hats. I want to ask you, just want to interrupt you real quick, but you said that there was a transformation or a change when people started interacting with you. What change or what did you notice was the change? Did they take you more seriously, or just tell us or expand on that a little bit more?
Yes. So when people would call me sir, right? And the funny thing is, you don't really notice what people call you. You don't really notice it, but you do notice it when they start calling you sir. When everybody calls you sir, right? Mm-hmm. When you speak, they stop what they're doing, and they're very attentive. These are very subtle things, but I notice them. When people look at you, people who look like they're of high status, right? Higher status, especially women who look like they're of higher status, looking at you in a way where they look like they're attracted to you. And when you look at them, when you make eye contact with them, they bashfully look away. And like nervousness, right? It was those small, subtle things that I was noticing that was different. And even my friends, they would treat me different. They wouldn't, when you see your friends, you give them a handshake, you give them a pound, we call it, you know what I mean? But they would shake my hand as if I was, like if they was meeting me, like I was a professional meeting or something. They would shake my hand instead of giving me a 5 or whatever. It wasn't even a conscious thing they did. It wasn't they didn't consciously say, "Hey, let me shake your hand now since you dressed up." They just did that automatically. So I started to see how my appearance was changing other people's behaviors, strangers' behaviors. But it also started changing me because I was standing up taller, right? I was more attentive. I was smiling more. I was speaking louder. And this is not something that I intentionally did, but it was the appearance, the image, the identity I started to take on started to change how I was reacting with people.
So dress for success, that's true.
Oh, it's extremely true. It is extremely true. The clothes that we wear, it affects. It's just like if if I put on a police uniform, put you in a police uniform, you're going to start talking like a police would just because. If I tell you to put on a police uniform but act like a clown, you can't. It's very difficult to do that. The clothes we wear, they cover us, they bleed. It's like our second skin.
That's true.
It's literally like our second skin. It covers our body, and so it changes it's almost like a character in a play. If he's out of costume, it's going to be hard for you to connect with the character that he's trying to play if they're not congruent with each other.
Well, you mentioned something about your buddy who cut his dreads off, and it's funny you mentioned that. When I owned my mortgage business, one of our new loan officers, a young brother, he had dreads, and being a black-owned mortgage company in Center City, Philadelphia, some of our peers that were Caucasian or other ethnicities, they used to dress very casually. And one of the things that we set down was we suited up all day. We're in the money business, and we need to look like that. So young brother came in for an interview. We liked him, and he had dreads. And I said, bro, we're going to hire you, but I said, I'm going to let you know right now. I said, if you change your appearance, because we dealt with all ethnicities and a lot of high net worth individuals. And I said, we're not doing loans on $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 cribs. We $500,000, $600,000, $1 million, $2 million. So I said, you need to be able to move in that space. And so he didn't cut his dreads off right away. So he was there for about 3 months. One Monday he came in, had his dreads off. And it's funny that you mentioned that about the dreads, because within the next 3 to 4 months, his revenue doubled. It's just because of the appearance and what people thought of him. And you're right, it's like your second skin. almost your clothes and also the perception that you give off. So yeah, that was a great point, man. And I saw that firsthand. So
Exactly.
let me ask you this real quick. Tell us what your experience was, how that morphed into Well Dressed Academy.
Right. So I started to change my friend, right? He started to ask me questions. I started to teach him, and he started to make the changes. And when the first day he started to dress sharp, we went out somewhere, and he started to gain the same responses I was getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very exciting to him. He was so excited. He was like a kid with a loaded gun. He didn't know what to do. He was like, he was just so excited. So then I realized, okay, I gotta work on his behavior now, right? Because I was like, he didn't have the same development I had, right? He didn't have the same understanding. It was almost like I gave him the finished product when he didn't really develop the same way, I did and why I did. So I had to take him back a little bit and get his behavior on point, because he would get people would really jump in to want to meet him because of his appearance, but then he would it wouldn't be the same as his actual personality and behavior. So then I had to help him on that. And, one day we had a guy's trip to Miami. It was me, him, his brother, and a few friends. A couple of them I didn't know too well. They were like close friends of his. So we went on a trip, and I'm in Miami. I'm dressed sharp, and he's dressing better than he's ever dressed. And like his friends was like, yo, bro, you real sharp. How did you learn how to do this? And I told them, and they were like, yeah, you really transformed him too, not just his clothes, but his behavior. Because they went on trips with him before, and he was like, kind of all over the place. And he's like, now he's kind of different, and he was like, man, you should do this on a larger scale, because the guy, he was like, I'm in my 30s, and I'm from the military, and I thought I dressed well, but you took it to another level, So I was like, yeah, maybe I should do that. And that's when I started to slowly develop what became the Well Dressed Academy. It was like before, it was another name before, but I was just slowly developing. And in my development, it took me a while to really develop properly, because I didn't want to be seen as a guy who teaches guys about fashion. That wasn't really my stick. Even though I'm in that space, I didn't want to be the guy who you look at and say, oh, he teaches people how to dress nice. No, it was more so about, I'm teaching men how to be better, right? I'm teaching men how to be better by improving their image. Because once they improve their image, other things start happening. And it's those other things, it's those internal things that I really wanted to speak on, and that's why I started to tell my story. Because at first I wasn't really telling my story about why I changed. I was really about, okay, you dress better, you get better job. You dress better, you get better women. You dress better, you make more money, And I wasn't really telling my story, So once I started to tell my story, I started to be able to pull into those other things, the real reason why men want to dress sharp. And guys would come to me, and I would start posting stuff on Facebook.
Right.
That's like my first place I was starting getting clients. I started posting stuff on Facebook, and I started talking about stuff like what happened to the Frank Sinatras, right? What happened to the guys that other men wanted to be, right? Those manly men who looked like they were on top of the world. Who replaced those guys?
That's a good question.
Right? Yeah, and I would just have a little dialogue about that. And I would talk about how I created the Well Dressed Academy, where I didn't want it to be a fashion place, but I wanted to create guys that other men looked up to, right? That other men like, man, that dude is sharp. Like bring back that era of men that were really, really sharp. And they were just sharp in their appearance, but they also handled their business,
Right.
Because that's what so when I created the Well Dressed Academy, I called it Academy, because I want everybody to know that I'm teaching men, and not just dressing well, because once you start dressing well, you need to also have other qualities about yourself, right? We expect a man who's just sharp. He's also good at X, Y, and Z. He's also a good man. He's responsible. He's a good father. He's a good husband. He's a good, all these things as well, because we assume those things about him. That's why we treat well-dressed men different,
right?
Because we think they're different, right? And so I was like, I want them to be. So I'm gonna get them in with the clothes, but then once they start getting sharp, we're gonna start working on some other stuff, some more internal stuff. Like my friend, I had to work on his behavior. So it's those things too I wanted to work on, and that's when it happened. So I started to slowly get my voice, slowly start working on people, and then I eventually got my first few clients. From there, it was like, that's when I really started to see more transformation. I was like, oh yeah, I'm on to something here.
You have a great niche right there, and it seems like you're talking about more of a total transformation externally and internally, based on your description of the Well-Dressed Academy. And that makes a whole lot of sense, man, because once again, if you just have one part of the equation down and you don't have the internal part of it down, then you're not going to be as successful as you could be. Now, it's funny, when we had talked about the dreadlocks, I had a conversation. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He said, yo, Jay, why'd you make my man cut his dreads off? I said, I didn't make him cut his dreads off. I just told him what was going to happen based on where we are in our business and the type of business we're in. I said, it'll probably benefit you if you do cut them off. I said, but that's up to you. Now, my buddy came back to me and said, well, you're trying to fit into the quote unquote white society. Why can't we dress like Allen Iverson used to dress and be ourselves and still get it done? And my response to him was, well, you have to understand your playing field, where you are, what you're trying to accomplish. And so it's not necessarily just about I'm going to be me, or I don't care what about the establishment. And I told him, I said, if you're playing in that field, then you got to recognize and understand the rules and the way that you can benefit in that society. So my question to you is, and I'm going to ask you what my boy asked me, do you think your boy cutting off his dreads was basically acquiescing to the quote unquote white society, or what? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I get this question a lot. A lot of people ask me, they say the same thing. I don't want to conform to, or feel like I'm conforming.
Right.
The thing is this, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're treated a way based on our appearance, right? It shouldn't be that way. But the reality is, it is that way, True. And it's not just other people. Like I said, we treat ourselves differently based on how we look. We do it to ourselves. If we wake up one morning with a big pimple on our nose, we might not go outside.
Right.
We might not go to certain places. We might not go to that restaurant or that coffee shop where the cute girl is always in the corner on a laptop. We might not go there that day. So we treat ourselves different based on appearance also. What I teach my guys, and what I taught my friend was, this is the reality of the world. These are the rules. Like you said, these are the rules of the game. Him and I, we would play Monopoly, right? We had this little thing when we was a good team when we was together, right? So we get all the politicians, all the important people, the lawyers and everything, and we would have a Monopoly night. So we would allow those people who are the influencers to be kids again.
Right.
And when we played the game, we played it a little different, but it was really just a game against him and I, and everybody else was just pawns. And we would make these deals. But we play within the rules. You understand the rules, and then you flip them, right? You use them to your advantage, right? So that's why I tell my guys, listen, this is the way the world is. It's unfortunate that you're judged based on your appearance. But let's get past that, and now let's use that to our advantage by dressing exceptionally sharp. Go above what anybody else. If you go into a meeting, if you go into a business meeting or a business conference, and everybody's going to wear a suit, you be the sharpest guy in that room. Now, I don't care if you're nobody, if you're somebody's assistant, they're going to treat you as if you're the speaker. They're going to want to know who you are because you look like you're somebody, right? And when you look like somebody, you're going to feel like you're somebody. And you're going to start acting like you're somebody. And eventually, you're going to become somebody. And that eventually only takes place in a month or 2 months because you start attracting different opportunities. Different people start coming to you. They come to you with these responses. Our appearance is communication. So why is it that way? Because we have to remember, we come from a place where at one point we had to decide if a person or a situation was dangerous or not dangerous, right? For our survival. So when we see people, we have to instantly identify if that person means us harm or no harm. So when we see a person who looks a certain way that's not close to what we used to seeing, we treat them different. But when we see a person who looks a way where it's usually a positive person, right, then we treat them better because we're social creatures. So if a person is sharp, we want that person to be our friends because that person may help us survive better, right? We want that person on our team. We want that person to help us thrive and survive because we know they're surviving and thriving because they look so sharp. But if they look low or low status, We don't want them to be around. We don't want to associate with them. So it's all these little nuances that we're not even making these decisions. A lot of this stuff is self-conscious.
Yeah.
You're not even making the decision. So it's like you can buck, or you can play the game, play it right, play it well, play it better than anybody else has played it. And then once you reap the rewards, you can try to change the coach in your own place. Once you own the team, once you own the stadium, once you own the league, do whatever you want. But until then, play the game.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I had my mortgage business, I had 40 plus employees, and I used to tell them from the heart, you're going to do the things the way that they're done here, and they're done here this way for a reason. If you can't handle that, then you need to go and create your own. And I used to be straight up with it because I knew there was a formula for the success of the business, and a lot of that was basically appearance, because when you're dealing with people's money, especially unfortunately for us black folk, people are going to look at us differently. So we got to be twice as sharp as anybody else just to get half the business. And we used to get account reps from a lot of the banks that would come in and try to solicit our business since we were brokers. And they would all say, man, you guys are the best dressed business or company that we deal with. I said, yeah, we got to be. Those other cats over there walking around in shorts and flip-flops, they still may be able to do $500,000, $1 million deals in shorts and flip-flops, but we're not afforded that opportunity, unfortunately. So we got to be twice as tight, man, looking good. So that concept that you have of the Well-Dressed Academy, man, which is internal and external, it makes a whole lot of sense. Now, Ty, I want to transition real quick because a lot of the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family members are in the initial stages of starting a business. And one of the most important things is financing your business. So my question to you is, how did you finance the Well-Dressed Academy?
Well, a good question. A lot of my financing came from me having little side hustles when I was, after I left the nonprofit, I was did a little bit of consulting while I was developing. And a lot of my development was more so developing, right? It was more so understanding business, right? Understanding this type of business. What type of business do I want to have? So a lot of my funding came from getting courses to teach me how to, start a blog, how to have an online business. So I probably spent close to $10,000 just on things like that, how to run a webinar, And so that was a lot of my development, because I wanted to make sure that the business had the right messaging, and I was tapping the right markets, and I was talking to the right people in the right way. And I wasn't very clear with how to do that when I first started out. So a lot of my, the funding came from the little side hustles I had, and I had a few. I had, at one point I was doing something here in New York called Instacart, which is basically where you're like a shopper for other people.
Right.
You go to Costco and you buy stuff, and I would bring in a few $100s a week doing that. And, it paid the bills, but it also gave me some money to invest in my development and also invest in my wardrobe, because my wardrobe is important for what I do. And luckily, I was able to also become a men's fashion editor for my appearance. When I was at the nonprofit, we were interviewed by a magazine, and the editor-in-chief called me up one day and said, you're the best dressed guy I know, so I want to make you the men's fashion editor of this magazine. And I had no editor experience. I didn't interview for it. I didn't need to give my resume. But from there, I was able to get a ton of custom suits, shoes, accessories. I was getting on private jets and photo shoots on private jets and things like that. It brought me from just being like a blogger to actually having credentials. Right. And then having these sharp suits as well, and these great photo opportunities. So that opened up more doors for me, and it allowed me to move further while I was slowly developing the Well-Dressed Academy. So the development, it wasn't so much about, okay, I need to take this amount of money and put into the business. This was something I was going to make happen regardless, right? I was on a mission to make this happen, and because I didn't see anything like the Well-Dressed Academy existing. Now there are courses that teach you how to dress, how to like style and things like that. There's big guys on YouTube, but they weren't really speaking from how it's going to transform a person's life.
Right.
And since I'm not, I wasn't a tailor, I wasn't selling clothes, I wasn't like a clothier or anything like that. I started doing this because it changed my life, and I wanted to give that same life change and transformation to other men, right? So that's the reason why I started doing what I was doing. So my messaging was different. So I must make this thing work. So I would just do that, and I would get gigs, I would get speaking engagements, I would get paid for that. Like, I started to slowly get myself out there, and the people started to see what I was doing. They would watch my video streams. Like, yo, man, your stuff is great. And now we just get these opportunities will come, clients will come, people will refer me. And then it just slowly developed in that way.
Now, I want the light bulb to go off in all the BEB family members' heads right now when Ty talked about financing his business. What it sounded like you were saying, Ty, you had to develop yourself in order to get the financing or acquire or attract the financing and the talent and skill to be able to build your business. And that's one thing I always talk about is personal development. So you don't have to go back to school and get an MBA, a doctorate or whatever. You always need to educate yourself continuously, because if you don't, that means you're going backwards. So be it online courses, be it reading, taking courses, in college or whatever. Always educate yourself to move your business and your personal forward, because if not, I'm telling you, you're going backwards. You're going to be hustling backwards. Anything that's staying the same is basically going backwards. So I see you're a big proponent of personal development, and obviously it's gotten you a long way, man. So I want to transition again, Ty, because I want to find out, and I want to let the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family members know, who are your ideal customers? I'm sure you probably looked at an avatar, or you've looked at current customer base. Who's the average customer that you attract to Well Dressed Academy?
Well, it's funny, it took me a while to identify what that person looks like. And it's not as easy as saying it's a person who works in this industry at this age. Really, it's men who feel the need to start a new chapter in their life, right? Okay. So that could be men. I have younger guys they're about to finish college. They're about to go into their careers, and they don't want to go in their careers as a kid, right? Mm-hmm. So these men come to me and they say, okay, I want to look like a man. I want to look mature. They come to me, right? Then we have guys who are in their careers, in the middle of their careers. They're successful, but they may be young, or they're trying to get to that, let's say like similar to the mortgage brokers. I have one of my best clients is a real estate agent, right? They're selling the 200,000, 300,000 homes, but they want to get into the 600,000, 800,000 homes, right? So they're going to be interacting with different people. Now, they don't look the part, or when they show up, they have to give their full credentials, or how many houses they sold. They get asked these questions. So those people come to me because they want to transition to that upper echelon of clients. You have guys who are recently divorced or separated, right? And now they're in a slump. So different messaging touch different people, but it's all about the people want transformation. The men, they want transformation. They feel like there's something missing, or there's something that they're not communicating, or they don't know how to communicate in themselves. So they come to me, they never come to me and say, I want to know how to dress better. Or sometimes they do, and I always ask them why. Why do you want to dress better? Why is it? And they'll say something like, well, I want to, just yesterday, somebody reached out to me, a young guy. He reached out to me and he said, I want to look educated. I'm about to finish school. I want to look like an educated man. Why is it important for you to look educated? Right. Well, because, when I get the jobs and I go to these places, so I drill it down, and then I talk about how you having a sharper appearance is going to give you that, because the appearance is just a tool, right? It's just a tool, and you do with it what you want to do with it. Once you're sharp, you use that tool to make more money, or you can use it to get better mates or women, or a new girlfriend or a new wife, or to attract get more affection from your wife, your current wife. You use a tool for whatever you want, but they all have their own reasoning for why they want to do it.
Yeah, and that's
right?
important.
So they don't really fit in a tight box, But I am going after other things. So I do. I'm going to be starting to go to colleges. I'm working on with a college now to do a series. I've done stuff with, professional men. Like I've done speaking engagements with professional men. But it's really all men have a need for it some way, somehow, but they all have different reasons why they come to me.
Now, that makes a lot of sense with you drilling down and really uncovering what's the true need that they're looking for. Because once again, it may start off as, I want to look better, but the question is why? What's your why?
Right.
And once you can drill down and identify that, then you can really assist them in helping them get where they want to go. So that's right on point, man. Ty, what motivates you, man, to get up and do what you do every day?
Well, I have a son. He's now 9. When I first started this, he was 2.
Okay.
And or when I first started dressing well, he was 2. And that a part of that was, it was important for me to have that image, because I wanted people that were important to me to look up to me, because I wanted them to support what I was doing, because I didn't want to be average. I didn't want to be, even when I was in high school, I didn't want to live an average life. I didn't want to just conform to everyday life. So when I got that opportunity to sell stuff on eBay, I was like, man, now I'm in control of my life in a sense.
Right.
I'm in more control. So once I got a taste of that, it was like, I want to have this for real, consistently, everlasting. So, every day when I get up, that's what I have to remind myself, that the life that I want to build has to be built by me, and I have to be in control of the life that I build so that I can have the freedom to be with my son when I want to be, or go where I want to go, do what I want to do, but also teach him the family business. That's something that I say a lot, because it came, watching The Godfather. I wanted to have a family business where I can bring him up, where he can learn marketing, and he doesn't necessarily have to do what I do, but he can learn these skills.
Right.
And he can learn marketing, he can learn sales, he can learn social media, he can learn advertising, he can learn just the discipline you need to do in order to develop anything, anything. And that's why when I went to you recently had a parent-teacher conference, and they talk about, he's a good student, he knows his stuff, but he has a problem focusing.
Mm-hmm.
And as entrepreneurs, we all know focus is something that we have a problem with too, to stay on path. We have a lot of people who still call themselves serial entrepreneurs. I was one of those too, but I say that being a serial entrepreneur is lack of focus, in my opinion, because I think that at some point you have to drill down and stick your head into one thing, and work it for a little while, work it until you reach certain benchmarks, you know what I mean? Because when I try to do multiple things, it just doesn't work.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? So I try to stick it, and every day as an entrepreneur, it's not even about who your market is, sales, all that. It's really about getting yourself. That's the biggest challenge of an entrepreneur. Getting yourself to work how you want yourself to work. Keeping yourself motivated, keeping yourself focused. When things aren't going well, still going, right? Still getting up early in the morning. Still making sure you take those meetings. Still making those calls, even though you're getting those. That is like the biggest challenge as an entrepreneur. And I think that's the biggest challenge, why most people aren't entrepreneurs, because that's not easy.
Nah, not at all. It is definitely not easy. I had a conversation. I was bringing my youngest daughter home from college for the holiday, and she was just talking about she's going to be taking an entrepreneur class next semester, and we were just talking about it, and she was like, "Dad, do you ever get concerned about not having a steady paycheck?" And I said, you get accustomed to a lot of things. You can become accustomed to good things. You can become accustomed to bad things. I said, but once you get out there and you get a taste of doing something that you truly love and you were put here to do, you get accustomed to not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. And if you're really good at what you do and you really work hard at it and you hone in and identify, your skills, your talents, and meld those two together, I said, you don't even have to worry about it. Do what God put you here to do. And the money will come as long as you got it in a systematic format where episode 199, I'm going to plug this again, pinpoint and monetize your genius. And your genius is the intersection between your passion and your talent. And if you know how to monetize that, it's all gravy. You don't have to worry about the paycheck. But yes, I had to tell her, sometimes, you do get concerned because it's not a consistent thing all the time. But you become accustomed to that and you have to continue to move forward and work through those issues. And I told her, everybody isn't built for this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you just got to have a certain makeup that allows you to push through. And you just talked about it. When you don't feel like making the calls, when you don't feel like taking those meetings, you still push through and do that because you recognize and understand what's necessary to get to the point that you need to get to. That was on point. Let me ask you this. With entrepreneurship, Ty, we know that everything isn't all beautiful. So there are times and there's certain things that happen to us in business that are either setbacks or you failed. Tell us about a time in a specific instance where you had a major setback or you failed in something in business, and what did it teach you, and how did you, if you did, get over that hump?
Well, I'll say maybe 2 years ago or last year. I'm not sure. So I get it confused. But there was a time when I was putting content out, and it wasn't getting a response that I wanted. Right? I was somewhat of a perfectionist, and I was trying to get the perfect content, and I would, I edit my own videos and everything else. It would take me, a couple hours and everything else. Now I put the stuff out, and it wouldn't get the response that I wanted, or sometimes it would get the response that I wanted, but then I would get these feelings of nervousness or now what, and I had to, I started taking these classes that worked on how people see the world, right? How we define the world that we're in and everything else. And I started to look at things slightly different, and instead of me worrying about the responses, so let's say I put a video out and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be great. I'm going to get a lot of views. People are going to sign up to my program, everything else, and it flops, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to realize that it didn't flop. My expectations weren't right? Why would I have those expectations? My focus shouldn't be on expectation or what the result is going to be. My focus should be on the work. That's where I have control over the actual putting out the content, putting up the work. Right. I don't have control over how it's going to be received. I don't have control over it because it could be anything. I could have put it at the wrong time on the wrong platform. So just like when I would have a lot of setbacks very similar to that. That was like at one point that was the biggest thing that would hurt me. It would keep me from doing stuff. It would just make me feel a certain way. And I had to realize that I need to switch from worrying about the result and instead worrying about the production of the content.
Right.
Because that I can control. I can put the content. I can keep putting it. I can output, but I can't. I don't know what's going to come back from it. I don't know. I just got to keep putting it out. And what happens is randomly, I would get people randomly calling me. People watch. People like I didn't necessarily know how to. For me, it was like a good response is people signing up, but that wasn't the only response they can give. So I had to look deeper into what was really happening in order for me to stop having that feeling. Because like you said, when it comes to entrepreneurs, sometimes I wish I could be normal. Right. Sometimes I wish I could just get a regular job, but I can't. It's something in me. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's something in you that you rather be poor and be striving to make this thing work than to be, mediocre, working a 9 to 5 and having an okay life.
You daring to be great, man. You got to dare to be great.
Exactly. And sometimes I wish I could just be regular. Sometimes.
No, you don't, man.
But I know that's not me. I know that's not me, and I know that's not a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's like, anytime when I'm hanging out with my entrepreneur friends and we talking about, what challenge we have, one thing I always say is, well, what's your other option? Because you're not going to quit.
That's it.
Right? You're not going to quit. So what's the other options? Let's brainstorm some other options. And once you realize that you're on the beach and your ships are burned, so you got to fight through, then you're going to fight through, and nothing's going to stop you. You may have a momentary setback or whatever. You take some time. I meditate, right? Take some time, meditate on that, and then keep it moving. What I mean? And keep it moving. And that's just what it is.
One of my best friends, he's an entrepreneur too. He was going through a hard time with one of his businesses. He had a home improvement business and everything was going haywire. And he was like, man, he said, Jay, he said, man, you ever feel like sometimes you don't want to be the president of anything? You just want to fall back. And I was like, yeah, but I'm like, yeah, you feel like that for a minute. And then when you realize that, this is what you were destined to do, then you get right back on the horse. But sometimes, yeah, it gets tough, man. It gets tough, and you fighting all kinds of stuff, and it's really a mental game. So you got to get your mentality right. But in order for the mental to work, you got to keep that physical up too. So it's physical, it's mental. And I know you probably discuss some things like that in Well Dressed Academy, because in order to look good, you got to feel good. So if you're not exercising your body and your mind on a consistent basis, it's not going to work. So speaking of that, man, I missed my gym appointment this morning, man. But I'll make up for that tomorrow, though. You know, well, actually, I'm lying. It's gonna be Thanksgiving tomorrow. I'm not doing anything. But
you have to do double now, because now you done took yourself back. You missed a day, plus you done ate extra on Thursday.
Exactly. So I got to make up for that. I'll put that in my calendar. Brother Ty, where do you see yourself in your business in 5 years?
So in 5 years, right now, what I'm getting into is doing colleges. I'm going to colleges and doing a series of workshops, and I'm trying to make those workshops groundbreaking, right? Groundbreaking in the sense where, for what I do, is I'm trying to change how people see themselves, right? And I want them to see themselves in a different way, because I truly believe that if all men were sharp, they will all perform better. It will increase performance in every aspect of life. So that's the next frontier. Eventually get into more corporate trainings. So corporate trainings doing, for sales programs, or, any company corporate company culture, changing their culture by improving the individual's image and identity, right? And then, eventually conferences, right? So from conferences where we have a conference of where men could come and they could learn how to improve themselves in a lot of other areas. So now I taught you how to dress sharp, but now my brother here is going to teach you how to manage your money. Yep. This person here is going to teach you how to manage your health. This person here is going to teach you how to manage your relationships, right? This person here is going to teach you about your spirituality, your mindfulness, the meditation. This person here is going to teach you how to be a great father. This person here is going to teach you how to build your business. You know what I mean? So I think in 5 years, I want to get to that level of being I want to be in the guy's phone where he's like, when I call Ty, whatever I need, he has a person who can help me with that.
Research.
Right. I want to be extremely resourceful to my guys, because for what I do, when I teach people, when I'm helping them with their image, it's very personal, right? The clothes we wear is very personal. A lot of people, one of the biggest questions I get asked, especially when I do stuff in like live and forums, people ask me about changing themselves. They'll say stuff like, "This is who I am. This is how I dress. This is how I am. Why would I want to change that?" Right? They will ask these questions, and I tell them, "Well, that's not who you are. That's just who you've been, or that's who you happen to be. But did you decide to be that? Did you decide to be who you are right now? Because if you didn't, how could you be your best self? If you didn't decide to be who you are, you just playing a role that you were given based on how your upbringing, the people you're around, your family members, whatever books or media you internalize, all those things influence you, but you didn't really influence yourself. You kind of just took what they gave and molded it into your own way." But I was like, when you go through my program, one of the things in one of my steps is called image building. And I ask men, who do you want to be? Who do you really want to be? Because I wasn't who I really wanted to be. And because I wasn't who I really wanted to be, I started to act a different way. I couldn't give my all because I wasn't in control of my image. Once I have men in control of their image, a group of men, a large quantity of men controlling their image, so many other things will come out of that, because now they're going to be impacting the world in a different way. So in 5 years from now, I imagine having a large collection of men who have started their interaction with me by improving their image, but then now they're doing such great things because now the ceiling, the limitation that they had on themselves, they're able to break through those.
That makes
so that's where that's where I want to be. In 5 years, impacting people that way.
In terms of monetization for your business, because if you're not monetizing your business, folks, you ain't in business. All right. So how do you monetize your business right now?
So right now I have primarily two ways that I monetize. So one is, or two services, I'll say. One is one-on-one coaching, right? So people hire me for one-on-one coaching. They usually find me on Facebook. I usually post stuff up on Facebook, and, we have a conversation. I get them on a call. We'll find out if, what they're struggling with, and if I can help them, based on what way is the Well Judged Academy, the actual academy, which is on my website, welljudgedacademy.com. And, men can go on there and they can join Well Judged Academy starting at $1, right? For like a 7-day trial. And it teaches them the step-by-step process. It's a monthly subscription. So, they pay either $50 a month or $100 a month based on their level of access. And they start to gain those skills. It's an actual course that they go through. Like, this is structured that way, but there's also monthly updates. It's monthly live. So if they have any questions, they want to speak to me personally, they can jump in on that. I do virtual coaching in there as well. So, weekly coaching. Cool. at a higher level. And so those are the two primary ways that I monetize the business currently. But then, eventually I'm going to be doing stuff in colleges too. So like speaking, I've got paid speaking, but it's not as consistent. I haven't really focused there. So now I'm going to be focusing on the colleges and the speaking and all that to also further monetize the business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Don't ever be bashful. If you're providing value to people, and I tell my coaching students this all the time, don't ever be bashful about selling something, because if it's valuable, and obviously you're going to always provide a quality and valuable product, because if you don't promote it, you're doing a disservice to the people that you could be helping. So right. that makes a whole lot of sense. And what you're doing, brother, for the physical, and not just the physical, but more so to me, the mental, because that's really where it all begins. If the mental isn't right, then nothing else is going to follow. So I give you kudos, man, because you're doing some positive and great things. And before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you, your websites, all of that type of stuff, so the BEB family can support you in any way that we can.
For sure. So people who reach me through my website, Well Judged Academy. That's the first place you can reach out to me. You can sign up to any of my programs, or you can contact me. I think my email address should be somewhere on the site. But if not, you can also connect me with me on Facebook. So my name is Tyron Cutner, or Tyron Maynard Cutner on Facebook. You can connect me there. A lot of people message me out of the blue, and I always connect with people because what I do is my mission. Because if anyone who comes to me, I imagine they're going through something I was going through. I imagine that whatever they reaching out to me, they may be going through something like that. Now, I'm not going to uncover it right away, but there's a reason that someone reached out to me and they want to improve their image, right? So I treat everyone, I give them, my attention as much as I can. And so you can reach out to me there. On Instagram, I'm not very active on Instagram, but somehow I still get a lot of people following me. It's Ty Cutner, so TYCUTNER on Instagram. And people can reach out to me there. They can follow me. I follow back. And those are the primary ways that people could reach out to me.
Cool. Before we close out, brother, is there anything else you would like to add to this interview? Did I miss something, or is it something you want to share with the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family before we close on out?
Yes. So, I think, first of all, thank you again, Jay, for giving me the opportunity to share, what I do with your audience. One of the things that I like to say, when I wrap up any type of communication is that I want people to understand that the way we appear, our appearance matters. It matters a lot to us. It matters a lot to our families. It matters a lot to the outside world, right? And we have to always take heed of that. And you want to improve that, right? You want to make sure that that's always an improvement, and you're always representing yourself at the best of your ability, because that's under your control, right? Just like how a person he wants to have a nice website. He wants his website to look nice, or he wants his business cards to look nice, or he wants his resume to be polished and no errors. Your appearance is your personal packaging. It packages you, right? And everything that your business represents, your website, your business cards, all that stuff is within you. Your resume, back and front, and stuff that's not even on your resume, right? Your website, you can make the sale in person. But if your packaging, your appearance doesn't suit that, right, then you're going to miss out on that opportunity. So I want people, a lot of guys ask me about how much it costs to buy clothes and all that. Is it expensive? I tell men it's an investment in your marketing, right? You're marketing, you're marketing yourself. Treat it as an investment. Take some of your marketing dollars and put it towards making sure your clothes look the part. Make sure your clothes fit you well. Make sure you're wearing clothes that represents who you want to represent, which is yourself. Take a lot of heat into that, and it makes a huge difference. And you don't have to take my course. You don't have to, go crazy, but put effort into your appearance. Make sure that you at least leaving your house, you're looking somewhat polished. You're not wrinkled. All those small things, people aren't going to pinpoint it. They're not going to say, hey, his shoes don't match his belt. They're not going to say that. But internally, subconsciously, they feel something is off. And that's all it takes for a person to not introduce themselves to you, right? For a person to not come up to you and talk to you. And that could be an opportunity that you missed out on. You don't even realize you missed the opportunity. But it happens every single day. Every single day is an opportunity for you to meet the person who has the key to the door that you're trying to unlock right now. We all trying to unlock some door. And there's another person that has that key. We don't know who that person is. We could meet them tomorrow. If we aren't visually prepared, or we don't feel at our best, or we happen to walk out that day in our flip-flops and pajama pants or whatever, we're not going to approach that person, and that person isn't going to approach us because they're going to see us as a nobody, and we're going to see ourselves as somebody who's not themselves at that moment. And that could be the last time we see that person, or we might not see that person for a very long time. So I always want to make sure that people understand that our appearance matters to us, it matters to the outside world in a way that we don't really talk about, but it's very important.
That's powerful, man, because that could be opportunity lost, and you don't even know.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
Last question, Brother Ty. If you had the opportunity to talk to one person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
That's a tough one.
That's what I do, baby.
Living or dead, who would I want to talk to? I think I'm going to say Russell Simmons.
Okay.
I'm going to say Russell Simmons. I recently watched him on a program, and I'm saying him because, I'm somewhat, I could probably reach out to him because I know some people who know him. But the reason why I say him is because, he started Def Jam at a time, like he was probably the first hip hop label that exists, and created this when it was very new, right? Doing things and finding people when things are very new. And I feel like what I'm doing, even though it exists, like music exists before him, right? That all exists, but he was doing it different, and he's seeing something different. He's seeing how things were changing, and he was able to present it to a world who didn't really knew it exists or didn't understand it. So I would have the conversation with him to speak about how to talk about something that we all know about already, right? We all know what music is. We all know what dressing is, but talk about it in a way that people have not really looked at it in that way before, right? Yeah. How do you do that on a larger scale, and how do you do that on such a profound way where people are like, wow, that's the light bulb that I haven't really noticed, And so Russell Simmons I probably would have picked something different if I had more time to think about it, but Russell Simmons.
I got to put you on the spot, but that actually was a great answer, and your why was a great answer too, as it kind of mirrored, like you said, what you're looking to accomplish. So, Brother Ty, I appreciate you, man, for coming on the show and sharing your experiences and your time with the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family. We're going to probably have you back on, man, maybe a year or whatever down the road. Anytime you have anything new that you want to share, please reach out to me. We'll be in touch anyway. And I appreciate you for coming on, brother. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks.
That was Mr. Ty Cutner, founder of WellDressedAcademy.com. And I just want to share a few takeaways, some things that I really took out of the interview. And the first thing that stood out to me was when Ty mentioned that people started calling him sir after he started dressing to the nines, after he started dressing sharp. And it's funny because I never really thought about that. But as I go back and start thinking about some things and some encounters I've had with people, a lot of positive things did happen to me in business when I'm dressed to the nines. Obviously, most times when I go to meetings, I'm dressed and all of that. But he really hit home about how important that packaging is. And as I was bringing my youngest daughter home for Thanksgiving holiday, we were talking about entrepreneurship and marketing and a whole bunch of different stuff. And one of the things that I told her was, I said, nothing can be sold without packaging. And that's basically what Ty is talking about. Your attire, dressing sharp. And this just isn't for men, it's for women also. That's your part of your packaging. So nothing can be sold without packaging. Another thing I took away from the interview was that you may miss some big opportunities if you're not dressed for success. And he's hit it right on the head, because sometimes people that you need to connect with may not connect with you based on the way you're dressed. So if you got sweatpants on and a pair of sneakers or whatever, and you see somebody that, wow, I wish I could connect with that person, they may not take you seriously because you're not dressed to impress. So this really hit home. This is some good stuff right here, because it's true. You got to make your package look good, whatever you got to do. And it's not just the physical, it's the mental also. So you know how we do, BEB family. Please check out his website at welldressedacademy.com. That's welldressedacademy.com. So you can also try a subscription for $1 for 7 days and see how you like it and test it out. It can't hurt. So you know how we do it, family. We always want to support everybody we bring on to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family. Now, before we close out, family, once again, if you need to connect with me, any of my new listeners to the BEB, welcome to the BEB family. If you need to connect with me anything long, you can hit me at jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, JAYJONES @blackentrepreneurblueprint.com. Facebook, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Twitter, jjones001, JAYJONES. Instagram, jjones4real, JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL. YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and put in Black Entrepreneur Blueprint and subscribe. So I have different content that comes out on YouTube. My new show on WOL 1450 AM, that's going to be on YouTube. So please subscribe. All right. Also, if you need to be included in the BEB text line for special reminders and notifications, text BEB to 555-888. BEB to 555-888. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Check out J Jones Black Entrepreneur Blueprint on LinkedIn. And I just want to share one other thing with you, BEB family. I got a DM from a BEB family member earlier, actually it was last week, and we connected this week. So if there's something that you need to holler at me about, you know, you got questions about things, trust me, I'm going to get back to you. It may take a minute for me to get back to you, but I am accessible. So please feel free. If you have any questions or anything, you need help with anything that I can help you with, just reach out to me. Anything long, just email me, jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com. If it's something short or whatever, you can, DM me, on Instagram or whatever, Facebook, whatever you need to do. But I am accessible. So please feel free to reach out, and people will let you know. They'll tell you that I do get back to you. It may not be that day or the next day or whatever, but as soon as I can, I get back to you, because I may be traveling or doing some other stuff. As we close out, guys, I say it each and every week. Please continue to spread the word about Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, the podcast and the blog. We continue to grow each and every episode, and that's attributed all to the BEB family. You guys, I appreciate you. I love you guys, and I'll see you same time next week. Peace.